Sidoti. And on this segment of People You Should Know, my very special guest is Dr. Adam Gower from Gower Crowd. And he is going to tell us all about funnel building for your real estate business so you can get investors. And I'm super excited about this because I feel like this is one place where so many of my clients struggle. Like they get these beautiful legal documents. They spent all this time and energy learning real estate, learning the real estate business, and sharpening their knives in terms of how to go out and get properties or how to analyze a deal, and then learned about a little bit about securities law, so they knew, okay, I need these documents. And then they get these beautiful documents and they have nowhere to go. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to have a way to go out and raise capital successfully. So please welcome my guest, Dr. Gower. Hi, Dr. Gower. How are you today?
Jillian, it's fabulous to see you. Thanks so very much for having me on your show. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. So what made you think to start a company that was so specific for real estate entrepreneurs to go out and start marketing their wares?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. So it wasn't something that it wasn't original thought. Actually, it was a confluence of circumstances that gave me the idea that this was something very profoundly important for real estate developers. And those circumstances were two things. One, a change in regulations, right? You're the expert on this. Securities laws changed in 2012. And here you'd said I could plug my book. So
yes, I want you to, yeah.
I wrote a book on it, Leaders of the Crowd. And it talks about how the laws changed and what the background was and who the lobbyists were. And I spoke to people in the White House and Congress, etc. So that was number one. The laws changed, and the laws suddenly allowed, for the first time, developers to essentially to advertise their deals online, to communicate beyond a small group of people, their regular investors. So that was number one, and that was happening even without me being involved. Right? Then on the second hand, I had been involved in some massive activity during the last downturn, transacting for private equity funds and for banks, distressed real estate projects, actually, or notes.
Okay.
And when the economy picked up, I actually started to do some seed investing. I got out of distress because there was no more distressed real estate. At least it was going. So I started to invest in small startups, tech startups. And what I was hearing from these 20-something-year-olds was a language, Jillian, I had never heard before. And that language was the language of digital marketing. As I started to realize that they were describing probably the most powerful marketing systems ever devised by man, it occurred to me that real estate needed to, or could benefit from this, that these changes in law or these regulatory changes were a direct influence or could benefit directly from digital marketing. And so right. The long answer to a short end, I put the two together and started to investigate what exactly a funnel was. How do you market something? How do you bring real estate, capital formation into the digital age?
Okay, this is awesome because you said some things here that I know my audience has probably heard before and doesn't know a ton about, or maybe they know a little something about it, but they don't know how to put the two together. And one was, you said digital marketing and funnel. And what I want to focus on right now is funnel, and what a funnel really is and what a funnel looks like for a real estate entrepreneur who's trying to raise money.
Yeah, so a funnel, so the classic, so this is exactly what a funnel looks like for a real estate developer. Think of what a funnel is literally. A funnel is a kind of an inverted Y. Actually, it's exactly a Y shape, right? The gravity is going that way. I actually draw all mine horizontal because I need more space horizontally. But for a real estate guy, you could think about, a pipeline, right? So you have at the top of the funnel, at the very head of your pipe, if you like.
Right. Where the biggest part is, where everybody
The
goes
biggest part
first.
is.
Yeah.
That's where you are bringing prospective investors into your orbit. And the way that you're bringing them into, you're the center of gravity for them to invest in real estate, to make money from real estate by investing with you. Yeah. So on the periphery, right at the top of this funnel, to mix metaphors, of course, you are drawing people in by giving them information that isn't pitching anything. You educate people online about how to invest in real estate, what real estate investing is.
I want to focus on something you said there, because
Sure.
we started with, hey, the law changed and now you can advertise and tell people to invest in your deal. But what you're saying is, at the top of the funnel, people don't say, hey, do you want to invest in my deal? They start educating people about how to invest in real estate.
Yes, or something else even. So if you are a developer, right? So I'm a 35-year, unfortunately, I know I don't look that old, but I've been in it that long for raising money and doing deals in real estate, or development and finance. And the way that it used to be done, and for a lot of people is still done, is that you meet people in person. And if you are given an introduction to a hot prospect, right, wants to invest in real estate, right, and you get to meet that person in person, the first thing that you say is not, here's the contract, right? Minimum 50,000, sign here, and these are my wiring instructions. I hope you brought your checkbook.
It's funny because the analogy I always use is, you don't ask somebody to marry you on the first date, because if you're doing that, you're a psychopath. And if you're a lady and you're accepting, you're crazy too. So you deserve it.
Exactly. And if somebody says yes, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. So you're both crazy if you're asking somebody
exactly.
to marry you on the first date. So yeah, exactly.
So think about what it is that you have done before to raise money. I mean, literally, the first time you meet somebody, how does that conversation go? This is kind of, you think of this as top of funnel. That conversation is, nice to meet you, right? Tell me about your background. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up? Do we know anyone in common? What's your view on investing, right? What history do you have? You talk about your background. Once you've got through that, then the conversation might go to, well, what are you working on now? Right? Then you start to talk about specific deals. About that person you meet might be interested in knowing that probably these days, the first thing they're going to be wondering is, well, look, here's this developer, and I know, got a good background and seems like they got some good deals, but heck, we're moving to a recession. I wonder what they think about recessions. And so you say, listen, right? You'd ask that person, that prospect would ask you, tell me about your views of recession. All right. So at the top of your funnel, the first thing that you want to do when you create content to communicate digitally is you take all those little pieces of dialogue that you would have with somebody over a lunch, right, to discuss recessions or your background or your view of investing, your investment philosophy, and you replicate those in a digital format. So it could be video like we're doing. Right. It could be audio. It could be written. And those little sound bites of information, that's what you put out on social media. You put it on your website. You push it out on social media. That's for the entire world to see. That's why it's top of funnel. Maximum number of people will see that, right? That's for everybody. But here's the key, Jillian. The most important thing that you have in every single piece of communication that you put out there also has an analogy in the way that you communicate when you're in person. When you're in person, you always finish a pitch meeting, let's say if you have an hour lunch with somebody, with follow-up. This is what we're going to do next. I'm going to do this. You're going to read that.
Right.
I'll do this, that, and the other. The same thing happens in digital syndication or communication in the digital world. You have your content out at the top of the funnel, and then just a little further inside that funnel is a CTA, a call to action. So you might put, for example, an opinion piece on when the next recession is going to hit. And on social media, you would have a single paragraph that says, here's my views on the recession. Find out more by clicking here. That's your CTA. That's your follow-up. So now, whoever it is that reads that and is intrigued, they click on that, and that will send them, ideally, to your website. And on your website, you now have a whole piece on the recession. So now as they read, go ahead.
Hold on 1 second, I got a question. So you start off at the top of the funnel, and are you putting this content out on YouTube? Are you putting this content out on Facebook? Or are you creating a special like one-page website? Where is this content going?
Right, so it's typically housed on your website in some kind of article format. But what you also do is to create a nice piece of artwork that has a headline on it. And that piece of artwork is distributed, on, ideally these days, the primary channels are going to be YouTube. Are going to be LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. If you're doing video, of course, YouTube as well. You can distribute on YouTube, but it is housed on your website. So now you take that artwork, put it out on social media, and this whole process, Jillian, can be automated. Nobody wants to be sitting on their phones, clicking and clacking and doing social media. But so this entire process can be fully automated. You never touch it. My systems are out there now. As I was telling you before we started, I get clicks through my funnels all the time, right? And I'm just sitting here talking to you, and people are consuming my content. Well, that's what developers can do as well. So they say you put out this your blog posts on social media with a CTA. The CTA says basically come to my website to read the rest. Now you're inside the article on the website, and inside there is a lead generation form. And the lead gen form says, give me your email and name and email address.
Right.
In return for that, I'll give you a white paper, or you get on my newsletter, or I'll send you more information about one of our case studies, for example.
How specific, because my experience is that if you send somebody to this point where you're saying, give me your information and I'll send you X, then you have to have, it has to have a call to action that makes sense, because nobody really wants to give up their information anymore. Because they're inundated with information, right? So how specific should that be? Like, I'll sign you up for my newsletter that will tell you what, or get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of ways that you can motivate somebody or intrigue somebody, actually a prospect enough to warrant them giving you their name and email address. And by the way, why do you want that? Well, the only reason that you want that is so that you can then set in place a sequence of more communication with them. It's the same as a conversation over lunch. It's a sequence of sentences, just like our conversation, back and forth and back and forth, right?
Right.
So, so there are a few things that you can do with a lead generation form. I like to keep them simple. Name and email address and sign up. You don't want to ask for phone number, business address, right? That can all come later. Keep it simple to start with. And then there's a few things that you can use. For example, one technique that works very, very well is to say, join our wait list. Join our wait list implies there's demand.
You're so popular.
Yes, right? Sorry, we can't let you in right now. But join the wait list, and when the time comes, right? This is just implied in the language of the term, join our wait list. It triggers a psychological response in some people. That response is colloquialized to FOMO. Have you heard this term? The fear of missing out.
I do. I was about to call you dude, but
feel free.
I call you dude.
Are you a dudette?
I get,
I don't know
I
how it works.
you're missing out way more often than I probably should.
Right. And a lot of people do. And that you can trigger that response by using a term, join our wait list. Another way that you could do it is you can use a term we've used very successfully that says, uh, sign up for our educational newsletter and for exclusive access to investment opportunities. Okay, so that might work for other people. You can you can split test these ideas. That's interesting, isn't it? Where
Oh,
actually on your website, that same language, join our waitlist or gain access is another phrase that works very well, will oscillate. So depending on who logs on, that same message can switch out. And over time, you can see which gets the highest hit rate, right? So now you
right.
discover gain access might be doing better for you than join our wait list. So now you use that language.
So everybody out there who might have missed that, I want to back up because that was a huge hint there, or strategy. Find out what is working best, and by split testing, and it's really simple to split test. You look to see where you get more response with two different pieces of information, just to see what is the crowd enjoying based on what you're giving them. So
That's right.
yeah, that's
And
awesome.
and in the digital era, really, or digital age, data, you cannot imagine how much data is available, and how to utilize that data to refine your messaging. So for example, I might send out an email to 75,000 people. Right? It's a lot of people for
That
one
is.
for a newsletter. So I'll send out an email to 75,000 people, but I'll split test the subject line. So one subject line will say one thing, and a second one will say a different thing. And the way that it will work is that the first 30% of people that get the email will be split. So 15% will get one message, 15% will get the other subject line. And depending on the winning subject line, the remaining 70% will get that winning subject line. So what happens is we see our open rates increase dramatically. It also tells us what kinds of headlines people are being responsive to, right? So for example, I'll give you some examples just really quickly. So if you said in an email, time to invest, right? It's time to invest. And you put in your subject line, investment opportunity open, that might be a good subject line. Or you might say 15% projected IRR, investment open, which would, right, if you've got a huge list, you want to be sure that you're sending the right subject line. You want people to open your email. And typically, talking about returns in specific numerical terms will get you higher open rates. Just that.
That's such great advice there. And I have some leading questions, but we are running out of time. And I mean, because quite frankly, there's one thing I'm pounding on the table about, and I'll share this with you, and I'll get this last thought from you, and I want to get your book from you.
Okay.
But I'm pounding on the table trying to tell people to please stop using the word passive investment opportunity, or using the word passive. I think people who are looking for passive investment opportunities are looking for passive investment opportunities. It's not that they're not looking for that. I think the word passive is an incredibly negative word, especially for those people who are looking for passive investment opportunities, because those are people who are not passive by nature. They're busy doing something else, and they don't have the time to be an active investor. But to tell them that they're passive is really insulting to them. It might not seem that way on the surface. I think it's deeply psychological, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think that's a really interesting insight that you have there, Jillian. One of the biggest problems that developers have, that seasoned professional developers have, who know what they're doing, when they go out to raise money online, The biggest challenge is getting through the noise of the junk that is out there. And there's a lot of programs and get rich quick schemes that talk about passive investing. Be a passive investor. Invest with no money down. Invest from the comfort of your armchair. Be passive. Earn passive income. A lot of it is junk, right? It's just junk. It's hypey junk. So if you start using terms as a seasoned professional that aligns with that noise, you will be associated with that noise and compartmentalized alongside it. The best thing you can do is to be authentic to who you are and what your true value proposition is. So you're absolutely right. Steer away from corny cliches, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm right. All right, I'm going to wrap up here, but before we do, two things I want to ask you. Where can people find you on the internet? How can they get in touch with you?
Right. So I'm reasonably sure that if you're watching this, I think behind me somewhere it says Gower Crowd. So just add a .com to that and you'll find my website, gowercrowd.com. So that's the best place to go. There's masses of information there. There's all kinds of stuff you'll learn.
No, I was poking around your website. It's awesome. It truly is awesome, everybody. You should go to gowercrowd.com, check it out, and definitely use Dr. Gower's services here. And then last thing we ask all of our guests, what book do you recommend?
Yes, I know. You told me you were going to ask that. I'm afraid I have very embarrassing taste. I've got a whole list of books that are very specific to digital marketing, but I don't share those. I kind of grind through them quickly. I find them a bit of a chore, to be honest, but they are interesting. You got to go through them quickly. The ones that I love at the moment are a series of books. You'll never believe this. Sounds kind of wacky. Two loves of mine. One, comedy, and two, history.
Okay.
So I discovered an author called Graham McCann.
Okay, Graham McCann
has written a series of historical, almost academic level historical books on great British comedy shows. So I've been learning.
Oh, no kidding.
Fawlty Towers, Monty Python. He gets deep into the history. He gets deep into the history of where they came from and the whole background to them. So I know that's not very profound, but it's bedtime reading.
I love Monty Python, but you know what show I love both the British and American versions of The Office.
Oh, yeah.
That is one of the greatest shows of all time.
It is.
But thank you, everybody. Please go to gowercrowd.com, especially if you're in the real estate space. But even if you're not in the real estate space, you're in any space, this advice is good for anybody who's looking to raise money. All of this that we've spoken about with building a funnel is applicable to any industry. So pay attention and go check out gowercrowd.com. I'm Jillian Sidoti. This has been our segment, People You Should Know. And check us out at crowdfundinglawyers.net. Thank you.